Okay, we're to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have another review brought to you guys in part by Belmont Watches, so big shout out to them. You know, I can't always buy every single piece that I'm interested in reviewing, so it's nice to have some that can come in on loan, especially pieces that sell really fast like this one. This is Seiko. Of course, you know we love Seiko on the channel. A little bit about the brand: they were founded back in 1881. They're Japanese of origin and now have factories throughout Asia. They cover all market segments from entry level to high end. This is somewhere in that entry level space, and I think they do a great job there. In terms of the type of watch, this is a chronograph. Some key common characteristics in design language: you're looking for a chrono. Of course, you're going to be looking for external pushers to activate timing functions, multiple subdials to measure elapsed time, often featuring additional scales dependent on the subgenre. This, I think, fits really well within the motorsports style. So if you're into automotive style watches, this definitely hits a big sweet spot in terms of the shape of the case and of course the Panda dial layout. This is the Seiko Prospex SSC813 Speedtimer Solar, and it's inspired by one of Seiko's first precision chronographs developed for internal sporting competitions back in 1964. These go for $675 MSRP, or you can grab them from Belmont Watches in San Diego for $645 currently at the time of this listing. But be careful because they go fast, so if you're waiting till the end of this video to click on the link, maybe don't wait, because they sell pretty darn quick. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay guys, so this bad boy is brand spanking new, still has the tags on it and some of the plastic. So very, very nice. You can see beautiful condition, so I'm not going to be like setting the size or anything like that on this, but I will be handling it and giving you, of course, my take on it. And I mean, at initial look, it's really great. One of the reasons why I was kind of hesitant earlier to review this piece or purchase this piece is because I kept seeing pictures where the dials looked purple. The subdials just, I mean, I think people were just taking pictures out in broad daylight, and because of that, they just had a bit of a hue to them, because that's actually where they have the solar charge panels. So that was kind of, I don't know, it made me hesitant about these. But then after seeing these in the metal, I was just like, oh man, no, these look really great. Like, it's really in very specific lighting where they will reflect enough to where you're going to be seeing something else. And I gotta say, these things really, really hold up. So let's get in really, really close there. And let's even get in so close that I might need to add a secondary light source here. Okay, wow, maybe tune it down a touch. Yeah, check that out, guys. So really nice. And then again, this is a Seiko. This isn't a Grand Seiko, so don't expect some level of macro worthy perfection. But in terms of a watch that you can get for under $1,000, I mean, this is really, really handsomely done. You get the beautiful tachometer scale, nicely balancing that case out. It is just a great, great look, guys. I gotta say, I'm very, very impressed with this piece, and it almost makes me want to get one, but then I remember that I have my big mechanical Panda Prospex chronograph, so it would probably cannibalize a bit of the time there. But if I was in the market, this definitely would be an easy choice. I love the case shape here. You can see that it has more of kind of the 62 MAS style of lug end, where it essentially looks like a straight lug. So if you were to put this on a rally strap or something like that, it would just look fantastic, which is great. So very, very nice, I have to say. And again, very cool. So let's cover some of the specs here. So 39 millimeter diameter, which is great, and I think doesn't get talked about enough. So 39 millimeter is such a nice spot, especially considering how much space there is on this watch. It's not overcrowded or anything like that at the smaller size, so it just proves that you can do something like this in this scale, and it still is going to look really nice. Thickness in terms of the height here, guys, is 13.4 millimeters thick and 45.5 millimeters lug to lug. And then of course, if you go by the further extremity, then it can be a little bit further because of the male end link there. But I mean, that's just you know, that's not going to make or break the way a watch is going to wear, to be quite honest. I mean, it's really about the way that it's going to wear visually with the case. I don't think that the bracelet is going to overwhelm it enough to where it's just going to elongate it to where it's unwearable. But as you can see, actually, with my secondary lighting on around the lens there, you can see I can kind of force reflections where you can see those extra hues, but they're not really there, right? So again, yeah, you can force those, but it's not normal by any means, and it's not like what you would see with just like regular tones with this piece. So very, very nice. I'm definitely digging this one. I like that it's actually quite tidy. Actually, let me give it a quick wipe here off camera. Okay, so very nice. I think the proportions are something that really go unnoticed with this piece. It's not super thick. It's, oh man, I just got another. Just, I'm sure I'll add more fingerprints to it, but just so you guys can get a clean look there. Nice luster. Very, very cool, very handsome. So a bit more into the details. I'll shut off this because I don't really need to get macro close to it. What we can do is talk about the crystal. It's a sapphire, single dome, so with inner AR coating, so it's going to have some play there. Single dome just means it's domed only on the outside, so that curvature that you're seeing there, it's only on the outside. Underneath it's flat, which means that there will be distortion. If it was double dome, it doesn't mean that it's more domed, it just means underneath of the crystal is domed as well, so that you wouldn't have that distortion. So this is pretty par for the course. There's a lot of brands that will do a single dome, and then you just, you know, at very harsh angles, you're just going to get some distortion, a little visual play. Some people are into that. They think it gives it more of a vintage vibe. Me, I'm kind of fine with ultimate legibility, so I have no problem with a double dome. Of course, it does add a little bit more cost and complexity into the production, but very nice. You can see it's surrounded by this really well done, very sharp, very legible tachymeter scale there on that fixed black coated bezel. Actually, since we're going to get into that, maybe we'll hit that light on again just so we can get in very close and you guys can take a look at the numbers. Very sharp, and the markings there on the tachymeter scale, really just quite handsome and well done. So very nice from that perspective. Now the crown is a push-pull crown. It's unsigned, but it doesn't mean it's not decorated. It does have a nice little kind of ring shape there, which I think looks great. The bracelet is also, you know, as much as the case is a bit reminiscent of that 62 MAS, it also has the bracelet. Well, I should say it's more of the, you know, the reimagining of the 62 MAS, right? So like the SPDC 101 or SPB 143 for reference. So on the modern side, it definitely has a similar look and feel. Of course, this doesn't have the hard coating, so it's actually going to render a little bit more of a bright steel that you'd be used to, versus when Seiko does their coatings, typically it can make them seem a little darker, a little bit more dull. But you know, here you get a little bit more of that bite and that freshness, which I think goes really well with the white dial, so it stays very crispy. The bracelet doesn't seem, you know, tinny or anything like that. I'm sure it's a pin and collar setup. It comes down to very standard clasp here. If I can manage to, we'll just put this back on afterwards. But as you can see, milled section, you do have 1 point of micro adjust there, manual, so you got 2 holes to choose from. Nice trigger actuation, very handsome, and very, very tidy. You can see solid case back, nicely etched. This is a really nice piece. I mean, I can see why these things are selling out so often, and honestly, by the time you're watching this, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Belmont hadn't sold this one or another 2 or 3 that they might have in stock. But definitely check them out because you're going to get some savings. Now, a little bit about the actual movement in here. This is a Seiko Solar Quartz V192. It has a 6-month power reserve on a full charge, which is great. And it has plus or minus 15 seconds a month accuracy. So that's pretty darn good, and definitely a lot better than you're going to get from a mechanical watch. So that's something for those of you, you know, if you have a big mechanical collection. The nice thing is you can have a nice solar quartz like this that won't die on you, that, you know, you won't have to get the battery switched out or anything like that. And you can kind of set your watches to this one because it's going to be very, very accurate. So, you know, that's less than or right around half a second, you know, a day. So not too bad. So I think you're really going to enjoy this one. That's, I think, the smart thing about Seiko is that they really make stuff that feels like it's for a collection, and it's not just a one watch. So like this is an amazing supporting watch to go with a bunch of mechanical watches, and honestly, not everybody can afford a mechanical chronograph, and not everybody has the wrist to pull off the mechanical chronograph. And speaking of a chronograph, let's actually actuate this guy. So, all right, you're not going to get the tactile feel that you would get from, you know, a mechanical pusher here, or even a Mecha Quartz, because that linkage is also mechanical on a Mecha Quartz. Here, this is just straight up. These pushers are essentially buttons. So you're going to push them, they're going to stop. You get the nice sweep reset. So nice, a little bit mushy. I mean, if you're already used to things like mechanical chronos, but if you're not, this is going to be just what you would expect, and it makes sense, and, you know, absolutely serviceable from that perspective. You do also get nice Seiko Lume right there, guys, so you are getting some spots of lume, so you're going to be able to see this puppy in the darkness, which is nice. So let's actually, before we get to the lume shots, let's get it on wrist and see how it wears. All right, as you can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, wears really well. Even if I get up close, where there's gonna be some lens distortion, making the watch seem a lot bigger, kind of in that wristy territory, it doesn't actually look too oversized. And a lot of that has to do with that nice case shape that is relatively short. Even, you know, even though the lug length, well, I mean, that is quite short at 45.5. So very nice. You can see lays really flat, definitely flatter and tidier than anything you're going to find with a mechanical movement in it. So very nice from that perspective. Very cool. Wears great. Lays great. This bracelet totally fine. It's a little bit big, so I didn't size it or anything like that. But it wears nice drapes around the wrist really well, and you can see, you know, the male end links aren't really an issue, at least at my wrist size. So if those of you with maybe smaller wrists, or maybe not a large flat portion on top, that might have a rounder wrist, something you might want to consider. But, you know, again, I think this one, it'll wear just fine. So with that said, let's actually get into some lume shots, low light transition, and closing thoughts. All right, we'll go ahead and hit the lights here. As you can see, nicely applied Seiko Lume Bright. I mean, nothing crazy, but, you know, this isn't a dive watch or anything like that. It definitely gets you, you know, figuring out where you're going, especially if the chronograph isn't running, so you know that that Lume seconds hand is up there at 12 o'clock. But something I like to do in these videos is work in a little bit of low light transition, so you can get an idea within mixed lighting situations what this watch is going to look like in less than optimal lighting, because you're not always going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight like you might kind of see the way that these watches are lit, whether it be for glamour photos or other videos, and to include even, you know, the majority of the way this was featured on this channel, right? Because yeah, you know, things aren't always going to be perfect. And in that transitional lighting, you can actually get a lot, pick up a lot of nuance in terms of the finishing, the textures, the colors, the way they render. And that's something that's really important. And as you guys can see, as this glides around, those dials are black, right? Even at various angles, it's a very particular space where those are actually going to be able to reflect in that purple hue. So for me, very cool. I appreciate that. And you guys can also see the light is just slow, even roll over that brushing there. And then you get that nice glossy, almost ceramic-like finish on that bezel, which I'm sure is just coated for cost savings. But those coatings are absolutely super strong and resilient. So I'd rather have it coated to where it probably won't crack, but maybe it'll scratch first, especially for a watch that's going to be worn like this. This is going to definitely be something that you're going to put through its paces, because there's really no reason not to. Very, very sturdy, very nice 10 bar, 100 meters of water resistance. So even out in water sports, you'll be good to go to enjoy this as your companion. So very nice. And you can see, even if I get back to the dark, that Seiko Lume Bright's still kicking away. And it hasn't been charging sitting out in the sun for a day. It's been charging under these studio lights for, you know, a couple minutes while shooting this. So definitely very, very cool watch, and big shout out, of course, to Belmont Watches for loaning it in. I'm really happy to be able to get a look at this piece. This is actually one that my brother's been looking for and been wanting for a while. So I can, if you're watching this, I can absolutely recommend this one. It's a very cool piece, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And for those of you that aren't my brother, that might be interested in this piece, yeah, I think you'll like it too. Closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, great proportion, feels quite tidy, while still offering a ton of visual presence, which is great. Model variants, there's kind of a tan, blue, and black dial option, so 3 different options, and well, 4 if you count this one. So comparable models, really not heavy into solar quartz market. So, you know, you guys, if you are, definitely let me know what you'd cross shop this against, because I really wouldn't know, to be honest. But it's a very nice piece. Bottom line, this has all of Seiko's in-house qualities, and it's packed into a chronograph with a very handsome Panda dial layout at honestly a super affordable price. This is not a bad price at all. You are getting solar, so it's not like, hey, 2-3 years you're gonna have to swap out the battery on this piece. You can run this thing, and the nice thing is it has a great amount of power reserve. It's really easy to figure out the power reserve because it tells you on the subdial. There's a little empty versus full, which is where kind of the hands will read intuitively when you're not running the chronograph. So very cool piece. If you own one of these, let me know your experiences. The more I look at it, the more I want it. So I should probably end the video now before I get myself another Seiko. So with that said, if you like the video, please do hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.